Good morning, everyone. The hour has arrived, and call this board meeting to order. And before I begin, I'd like to ask everyone to silence your cell phones. And I would like to ask that if you get up to address the board, please identify yourself. And at this time, I'll call on Al Bordell, the chairman of the Finance Committee, to convene the Finance Committee. Al?
Thank you, sir. We're going to call the Finance Committee to order. Our first agenda item is agenda item number 9, a loan feasibility update. Bond loan feasibility update begins on 9-1 of the agenda. Mr. Fuller, will you provide background on this item?
Sure. Agenda item number 9 is the bond loan feasibility update. This is an update of the terms for bond and loans that were issued in the past year from October 2017 to October 2018 that received Higher Ed Coordinating Board approval. This includes the actual date of the bond or loan issue, the amount of the issue, and the actual terms for the bonds and loans that are approved during this reporting period.
Do we have any questions? Mr. Fuller, this as we discussed before the meeting started, this is generally just informational, a review of everything we've done over the last year. No questions. We'll move on to agenda item number 10. Maintenance report begins on page 10-1 of the agenda book. Mr. Fuller, will you give us the background on this item?
And similar to the bond and loan update, this is just an update on the policy for maintenance of new facilities. Board policy that was passed 2010, that a report on the amount transferred to plant funds will be presented annually at the October meeting. This report ensures that all newly constructed and purchased facilities have a source of funding for maintenance of those buildings. When institutions come before the board with a bond or a loan feasibility, they have to include in that how much money they're setting aside for maintenance of the buildings, as you'll see in further approvals that come before the board later. The current rates that we have to set aside for those are $2.50 per square foot for an educational general facility and $1.25 per square foot for auxiliary facilities. And this report includes the status of maintenance transfer for each of the facilities that a bond or loan were issued.
Are there any questions?
A question, Mr. Chair. Have those rates, how long have they been set at those rates, the $1.25 and the $2.50? For what period of time?
I don't know that. It's been a few years.
A few years. I mean, I just wonder if there's, obviously there's inflation. So are those ever adjusted for inflation, or is that something that, is that by code or by legislation to change that, or who has the authority to change that if it needed to be changed?
I would assume you guys could tell us how much you want to change it to. It comes before you for the approval.
So we set those, this board sets those rates. That's not done legislatively or?
Yeah, I believe this is a board policy. Is that correct? Yes. So this is a board policy that came through in 2010. Is that right?
The review is in 2010.
Okay.
I'd have to get back to you on.
I'd be curious to know how long the rates, and they may be just fine, but I'm just curious to how long those have been set at that rate, because inflation at some point will become outdated, I would think.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I have a follow-up to that. It says it was passed October 29th in 2010 and states that the report on the amount transferred to plant funds would be presented annually at this board meeting, at the October board meeting. And so since 2010, we've been presenting this report year after year after year. And I've looked at this report and I see nobody who is outside the scope of the policy. And every time we approve a loan issue, we build this into the base of that. The last paragraph of every one of these we approve clearly states that we're going to set this aside. So we make them approve it and plan for it on the front end according to this. And so it seems to me, and you correct me if I'm wrong, it seems to me every year we report that people are doing exactly what we force them to do on the front end. And I'm just going to say it plainly, is this busy work? Is this 100% compliant year after year after year for 8 years, and we just report that, yes, we are still 100% compliant.
It would just be up to the board if they'd like to continue seeing them each year.
Yeah. Does anybody see a need to continue to review this when we approve it on the front end and the compliance is built into what we pass?
Where's my question?
Yes.
You have to do the work anyway, correct? The board policy is us reviewing this. The work's still going to be done.
We
You still monitor this all the time, agency. Is that true? No, it's not true.
No.
You monitor it strictly for this report? Okay. Then that makes.
Has there ever been an instance in the 8 years that somebody has fallen off this report? It seems like the report just says, yay, we're 100% compliant.
Sir?
Yes. I'd be open to just reviewing that in the future. I don't know that I have a recommendation right now, but to say that we're just going to do work for the sake of work seems counterproductive. Especially when we, like I said, we'll see in every agenda item that follows in this committee that we build this in. It is built in. All right. Any other questions? Any other discussion? Yes, sir.
I guess my question would be, where's the accountability? I mean, I read this as the purpose of this is to, yes, we request that they do it, but there needs to be follow-up, and whether how it's reported or whether we review it or Dr. Markham blesses it or whatever. But I mean, where is the accountability, the follow-up? We say we're going to do this percent at this rate. I assume we're holding them accountable and reviewing that and making sure that happens, right?
Sure. Yes, sir.
So that is happening, correct? So it's just how you report it to us and who approves it. Is that the question? I guess what we're asking.
That's the question that I was asking, but I want to make sure I'm clear on your point. That goes hand in hand with Mr. Revels here. Am I clear in saying that if we don't review it, nobody's reviewing it?
We don't report that to anywhere else. So if we're not bringing a report to you, we may collect the data, but it wouldn't be reported to anyone to review it.
So it's not a report just for the sake of a report. It's a report for review. We are the only people laying eyes on it. We're reviewing it. Wonderful.
Well, if we didn't, then that was my question.
Yes.
If we don't review it, y'all aren't going to do it. Is that what?
We wouldn't do the report. They're required to budget this amount, but we wouldn't consolidate that into the report. So when they submit their budgets, they have to budget this amount, and we do monitor that. But it's on an institution project by project basis instead of an annual review of all institutions together. Yes.
Are there any other questions? We'll move on to action item number 11, bond issue for the University of Arkansas system. That's on page 11.1 of the agenda book. Mr. Fuller, will you walk us through this?
Sir. All right, this first request is for a loan issue for the University of Arkansas system. Not sure what happened to the screens. You can't see them, but this is for a loan for up to $27 million with the term for up to 10 years at an interest rate not to exceed 4%. Proceeds for the loan be used for educational general purposes. The Board of Trustees approved this at its meeting on September 14th. The revenue from this is for campus billings. The loan will be used for implementation costs of the Workday Enterprise Resource Planning System. And AHECB staff recommends approval of the resolution. Any questions?
Are there any questions? Is there anyone here from the UA system who can speak just a little bit on the ERP system? Anybody here familiar?
Hi, good morning. Stephen Fulkerson, CIO for the UA system.
Welcome, welcome. Do you care just to run us through a little bit of what this implementation cost will consist of? I'm assuming software, some hardware, but just walk us through a little bit of that system.
Sure. The UA system has embarked on a transformational project to modernize our finance, HR, and student information systems. So starting this past July, we have begun the process of bringing 14 disparate systems onto a common platform, so that from a UA system standpoint, they'll have a global view of all of the HR and finance and student information across the system. As a part of this process, we're going to standardize how we record information, whether it's finance, HR, or student information, so that we have more insights into the overall enterprise. It will afford the UA system advanced analytics and reporting that will absolutely streamline the information that we provide to this organization in the future. We expect it to, over the long run, save around $30 to $40 million, and it will give us one system of record.
Wonderful. Thank you for that explanation. Are there any other questions? Do I hear a motion to recommend to the full board approval of the economic feasibility of the bond issue for the University of the Arkansas system?
Can I ask one question first?
Yes, yes, sir.
Because I read through this, and would you explain to me, and this may be a question for you, Nick, but I thought, my understanding was if you use this auxiliary funding information, that is for things that are outside the normal scope of what a university or campus does to educate students. And so to make it easy, like, you know, if you were going to build a football field or a stadium, that would be auxiliary, and that's going to be supported by revenues that come from other sources other than normal sources. And then if I'm reading this right, this is just supported by their regular funds, right? So what makes this auxiliary instead of?
With this going through the system, it's not funds to the system. It'll be funds from the campus.
Okay.
Coming to the system for their system-wide rather than each institution for their system purposes.
Okay.
That's why we went with the auxiliary issue. It's on the system level rather than each institution. It's not funds that go directly to the system. I don't know. Does that make sense?
No.
Because the system doesn't receive direct funding like that,
Right.
so they're billing each of the campuses to pay for it.
Right.
So it's outside.
There's the money coming from each of the campuses coming from their.
I don't know which one. I guess it would vary based on each institute.
So there's going to be activities that are going to be performed on every campus. And so there's going to be the cost of the implementation is going to be divided up between the different institutions.
Okay.
So, and then essentially charge back.
Yeah, I understand that. So if you built a system building, would that be an auxiliary funding also?
I haven't really addressed that one about building, but this in this system we don't have a lot of funds, as Nick said. So what we do is, and it's really for the benefit, the costs are for all of the campuses. So we will bill them. They each have a fee that they're charging that they have also been saving. There's also replacement costs, like what they're paying for now will go away because everyone pays individual amounts to whatever system that they have in place. So each campus has a funding. The reason that we're doing the note is that we want to do it over a 10-year period, and most of the costs will be bunched into those first 3 years. So, is there anything else?
And I understand all that. my question, I guess, and I guess I'm not stating it very well, is why is auxiliary instead of institutional? I don't know, is that the right word for the other one? Yeah.
Why is this not E&G?
Why is this not E&G? Well, I understand, but the way it's figured here is like an auxiliary.
And we actually, the system has only ever gotten one other loan, and we did it consistent with that because we don't really have very much assets on the system itself. So, and we are billing out to the campuses to do this. So
I give up.
Mr. Chairman, I have a quick question, follow up on that. There are going to be maintenance fees with this new ERP system, I presume, right? Monthly, usually you pay and then you pay a monthly fee
So
provider, correct?
So we're going with a 100% cloud solution.
Okay.
So there is an ongoing subscription fee.
Okay.
Not buying any hardware or anything like that.
Right.
It's
Yeah, maintenance subscription fee. We're talking about the same thing. So you mentioned there were some savings. Do those savings exceed the cost of the monthly subscription fee? And if it doesn't, are those expenses built into your, are loan proceeds going to pay for those subscription fees? And if not, where does that come from your budget? How do you make up the differences? There is a difference, or is there a savings?
So there are two components to this. There's the cloud solution subscription, the Workday subscription, and then there is the implementation fee, which is what this is for. Over time, and different institutions are handling this in different ways. Over time, there will be a cost savings compared to, for all institutions, their current ERP environment compared to the subscription fee, the subscription fee will be lower in the future. It varies by institutions, but across the board, there will be savings in the future. There is the implementation fee, but the UA system was at a unique point in time where there are enough institutions that needed to either replace their ERP environment or upgrade their ERP environment, that a collective purchase made a lot of sense. We have institutions that are on mainframe. We have institutions that are on 1970s VMS systems. And then we have some that are on Oracle. So we're kind of all over the place. This is going to bring them onto a common platform going forward.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I was just curious if the savings, I think you mentioned the savings, there are going to be savings here. I just wonder if they exceeded. It's kind of like you build a building, there's a maintenance cost, which we just discussed. You buy an ERP system, they charge you a monthly maintenance or subscription fee. So I was just curious if that's built in and you've got that covered.
We do, and so going forward, after we get past the period of time where they're running two systems concurrently, because there's a transition, all institutions will see a savings. Really, where we're going to see a lot of the savings, we saw a lot of value in doing this procurement together. By having both Fayetteville and UAMS, the smaller institutions really benefited from the pricing we were able to get from that. But it's really in the implementation because we're doing things collectively together. So we're only deciding things once. And so we've taken a very collaborative approach. We're using video conferencing, so we get everyone on a video conference and talk through things. And so it's been a very effective process.
It makes sense. So thank you.
Is there any other discussion? We had a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Is there a need to vote on this? All those in favor? All opposed, like sign? Action item number 12. Thank you. Thank you both. Appreciate you. The economic feasibility bond issue for the University of Central Arkansas. This will begin on page 12.1 of the agenda book. Mr. Fuller, will you take us through the background on this one?
This bond issue will be up to $57.3 million with a term of up to 30 years at a rate not to exceed 5%. This is for educational, general, and auxiliary purposes. Revenue is from tuition and fees, and proceeds will be used for multiple purposes, including planning, design, and construction of an integrated health sciences building, improvement, renovation, and furnishing of information technology infrastructure, acquiring various property, renovating State and Carmichael residence halls, and completing brick remediation roof replacement of Bernard Hall. And the ADHE staff recommends approval of the resolution.
Any questions?
I move we approve it.
I had one. Is there anybody from University of Central Arkansas here to speak on this bond issue?
Houston Davis, President of the University of Central Arkansas.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. I am interested in this 80,000 square foot integrated health sciences building.
Sir.
Can you speak just a little bit on it and what all programs will go into that building?
Certainly. Principally, this new facility is going to house nursing, occupational therapy, physical therapy, and then audiology, speech pathology. Other health sciences disciplines will also benefit from it, but if you want to think about those four being the main, the reason we want to move toward this new facility really being an integrated health sciences facility is that's the way our students and alums will be working in the world. We want them to be able to learn and train and really be able to polish their skills and knowledge in an environment that's more like what they're going to do in the work world. Very excited about what this will also do to allow us. Right now, there's a significant waiting list for spots, especially in nursing, OT, and PT. It will allow us to be able to look at significant expansion of those programs.
Thank you for the integration part. Really drives to the heart of this. I've been on the campus recently. It seems like PT has a relatively new building, but that nursing is not in that building, and this will bring it all together, one facility integrated.
Correct. Yes, sir.
And then on the auxiliary issue, I was commenting before we started here today that State and Carmichael Hall were the old halls when I went down to visit your campus in the mid-'80s. And so is this a renovation sufficient enough to bring them up to expectations?
Yes, sir. And you're exactly right. There are two buildings that are in need of a little bit of love. We actually are in the process. Hughes Hall on the campus and Conway Hall have been undergoing renovation in the last year and a half. And that renovation is affecting about 460 beds. Doing Carmichael and State will allow us to impact about 480 more beds. Of course, you probably know renovating these facilities is about a third the cost of building new residence halls. So we feel like that's a very smart play. And it absolutely, we've seen with Hughes Hall and Conway is currently under renovation. It's been well received by the students. They've been glad to see that happen. But we feel like that sets us up for another good 30 to 40 years on those buildings. That should be able to do the same thing for Carmichael and State.
Thank you for those comments. Is there any other questions, any other discussion? We have a recommendation. Do I hear a second? All those in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Agenda item 13, a report of the 2017-2018 intercollegiate athletic revenues and expenditures. It begins on 13-1 of the agenda book. Mr. Fuller?
Code 662-106 directs the board to develop and establish uniform standards for reporting revenue and expenditures for athletics. The 17-18 athletic expenditures for state-supported universities was $188.9 million and $607,886 for the two-year colleges. This represented a 7.3% increase over the prior year. And in your book, you should find the breakdowns of the revenues and expenses by institution. Look at the revenues by sources. In total, there was $193 million in revenue brought in. And the breakdown by the different ones on this slide. Next slide shows a breakdown of each of those revenues by the institutions. It's probably very small to see the different breakdowns. Then the next slide is the expenditures by the different types of athletic sources, totaling $189 million. And then the next slide would also be the expenditures broken down by the different types of expenses. And ADHE staff recommends passage of the resolution. Yep.
Revenues by source, there we go.
Yes, sir. Will do.
I also have a question on the transfers from the unrestricted ENG. That is capped, correct?
Yes, sir. There's a percentage that there's only a certain percentage they can transfer from the ENG each year.
Do we know what that percentage is off the top of our heads? Anyone?
I do not know off the top of my head.
I don't know it off the top of my head either. It seems like we max that out at almost every institution, almost every year, and I'm just not familiar with what that can be.
I do not know. I can get that information to you, though.
That'd be wonderful. I'd love to see what that number is, what that percentage is. That transfer comes up when we review this annually, and I'm just not educated enough on it to know. Is there any other questions, any other discussion?
Other athletic income, where's those funds from? Is that private money or on your revenues by source? Is there other athletic income?
Let me see real quick. It could be from the ticket sales. What else would includes in that? The NCAA distributions, broadcast, TV rights, just generated from the different athletics that the schools have. It should be on page 13.3 in the book. Like that top section of revenues is the majority of it. It's broken out by the different types there.
Are there any other questions, any further discussion? Do I hear a recommendation, send this to the full board? Got a motion and a second? All those in favor? Any opposed, like sign? That's our last agenda item. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Do I hear a motion to adjourn? Do I hear a second? We are adjourned.